Hello everybody, this is Mark with Pelican Wooden Things. Today we're going to do just a good old-fashioned wood turning. Nothing really special going on, just making us a nice eucalyptus bowl. How unfortunately I don't have a nice storage space for my logs, so they tend to crack a bit. I'm going to fill in the gaps with CA glue and then chop off some of the excess. Now let's mark out the center so we can drill for our worm screw. Since it landed right on the crack, I'm going to drill off center just a bit. And then cut it into a round. Next step is to mount it up on the wood worm screw and make this thing into a bowl. Turn it round, shape it, that sort of thing. Always remember to give it a nice test spin to make sure it's not going to hit your tool rest or anything else. As you can see from the lathe bouncing around a little bit, it is off balance. So first step is to turn it round. I work on turning it into a round and flattening out the bottom and shaping it all more or less at the same time, with priority of course given to keeping the lathe from bouncing all over the place. So turning it round first. At this point, you can see the super glue on the tool rest. I didn't wait long enough for the glue to dry after filling it up, so it ended up on my hand, my shirt, my tool rest, and my bowl gouge. So, on to the next day after the glue has dried, we can try again. Now this eucalyptus wood is very hard and quite brittle. Always gives me some problems when I'm trying to turn it. I prefer to do a push cut, but it won't take it very well. So mostly I end up just doing pull cuts. Here's what happens when I do a push cut. I get mostly sawdust and it goes extremely slowly. It also comes off the lathe extremely hot, so I have to keep my fingers out of the way of the flying chips because they come off hot. Okay, flatten out the bottom so we can make a tenon. Pull the tailstock back in for a little support. Needs a little more shaping before we can actually form the tenon. And again, that troublesome push cut. You can see how much sawdust comes off of this thing instead of nice shavings. So the shape has come together fairly nice. Now I think it is time to actually make that tenon. I want to try to make sure the base is quite flat, where the chuck will rest up against the bottom of the bowl, and it has a slight angle inwards. Helps to hold better that way. That looks pretty good. Finalize the shape up a bit. Now, unfortunately, I do still have a crack in the bowl. You can see it right there. Thought I would do something a little different to take care of that. I'm going to carve it out and then fill it with milliput. And I thought I would just make a little decorative couple of stripes there. Milliput is a two-part paste kind of epoxy. Cut off equal segments from each one, and you mix it up for a couple of minutes until it's a uniform color. And shove it in the crack, and it will dry overnight. Make sure you fill your cracks completely. It does take a few hours for milliput to harden enough to work, so I usually just leave it overnight. And it never seems to go in neatly. It's very sticky. I'm going to fill in any other little cracks I find while I'm at it. So first I'll sand down the part that's still sticking out, and then spin the lathe up and sand the bowl as a whole. Eucalyptus is a pretty hard wood, so it will take a pretty good finish to it. I usually sand it up to approximately 400. Give it a little finish. You supply a thin coat of this and then let it set overnight and then buff it out the following day. Okay, so we flip this thing around on the lathe. First we'll drill it out with the small bit and then the large one. That's the largest one I have, but the bowl's fairly large so it won't take that much out of it. I'll have still quite a bit of material to remove. Coming up is where the brittle nature of eucalyptus is going to get me into a bit of trouble. I'm going to get a catch. I don't know if you'll be able to hear it, but I sure did. Right there. And you can see it's wobbling on the lathe. Here we can see the tenon has a nice crack in it. So, what do? I'm going to cut the cracked part of the tenon off and put it back on. Here's a little side. My garage sale find. This old push screwdriver makes taking out these little bumpers a breeze. Okay, so now I'm going to cut out the bad part of the tenon, deepen it enough to where I can get a good grip on it again. I'll have to flip it around and put it back on the lathe. Alright, she's flipped back around. Not quite as concentric as it used to be, but it'll work. Unfortunately, I didn't get very far. Wasn't very long after that till that tenon cracked again. So, nothing to do but hope there's enough in the bottom of the bowl that I can cut it off and make another tenon. Turns out there was, but this time I'm going to try something different. I'm going to put some super glue on there, hope to stiffen it up so it won't crack so readily. Just let it soak in pretty good. Try again. I'm not sure if it makes a big difference, but I switched to my smaller bowl gouge. Maybe less likely if it does catch in such a major way. And it seemed to work quite a lot bit better. Maybe it's a little more flexible. I don't know. If anybody has a good idea why the smaller bowl gouge would work better than the larger one, put a comment below. I'd like to know. This time I'm actually getting shavings off of it. I wasn't with the large bowl gouge. So I got the bowl all hollowed out. Looks pretty good. Just do some sanding, put some finish on it, let it set overnight. Nicest thing about this eucalyptus is the beautiful color. Now, this is a rough barked eucalyptus. It's not the eucalyptus I grew up being familiar with, at least not until I got this house that had the tree out front. I always thought eucalyptus was a very pale wood with a smooth bark, but this is, as you can see, got a really nice color to it, and it has a rough bark. Now we flipped it around, remove the tenon on the back side, just carve it away until you get right to the end, and then nibble away right at the base until it pops free. Alright, so smooth that out just a bit, a little sanding, a little finish, and we got another one for the books. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and have a good day.